barbaric, irrelevant, unfashionable. These are just some of the meanings the word Gothic held in the 18th century when Horace Walpole penned his now famous novel The Castle of Otranto, widely hailed as the first Gothic novel. He even subtitled his book A Gothic Story. So how did a word with so many disparate and mostly negative connotations lend its name to the genre we know today? In the 18th century, Europe was in the midst of a cultural shift known as the Enlightenment, a period that celebrated reason, science, and human progress. Classical Greece and Rome were held up as ideals of rational beauty, with the symmetrical, clean lines of their architecture particularly praised by Enlightenment thinkers. In contrast, medieval architecture, characterized by grand cathedrals with pointed arches, towering stained glass windows, and intricate stonework, was now derided as unfashionable and barbaric. The term Gothic was used to label this style as something crude and outdated, an impression amplified by the decaying state of many Gothic buildings, which was several centuries old by this point. Renaissance critics, such as Giorgio Vasari in the 16th century, used Gothic as a pejorative term, linking the architectural style to the Goths, a Germanic tribe that had sacked Rome centuries earlier and were widely held as bringing about the fall of the Roman Empire. By calling these structures Gothic, they essentially dismissed them as works of barbaric influence, reflecting a break from the ordered beauty of Roman architecture. Before it was labelled Gothic, the architectural style we now call Gothic didn't have a specific universal name. During the medieval period, people simply referred to these buildings as church or cathedral architecture without a particular stylistic label. They viewed this as the contemporary architecture of the time, especially suited for large churches and cathedrals that reached new engineering heights. However, attributing Gothic architecture to the Goths was historically inaccurate. The architectural style originated centuries after the Goths and had nothing to do with them. It actually emerged in 12th century France with the construction of the Basilica of Saint-Denis near Paris under the direction of Abbot Suger. This architectural innovation was more closely tied to advances in engineering and the spiritual ambitions of the medieval church than to any influence from the Goths. However, not everyone shared this dismissal of the medieval period and its architecture. Some thinkers and writers, including Horace Walpole, saw value in the mystery, spirituality, and imagination that the Gothic style evoked. This fascination was not limited to architecture, but extended to a world where reason alone did not reign supreme, where superstition and the supernatural could thrive. Walpole's fascination with the Gothic wasn't just theoretical, it was deeply personal. He even remodelled his own home, Strawberry Hill House in London, in a Gothic style, filling it with arches, battlements, and a sense of a romantic decay. This passion spilled over into his writing. The Castle of Otranto, published in 1764, blended medieval settings with supernatural occurrences, creating a novel unlike anything his contemporaries had seen. To emphasize its medieval setting and supernatural elements, Walpole even subtitled the Castle of Otranto as a Gothic story. The novel's decaying castles, haunted corridors, and dark family secrets marked a dramatic shift away from the rationality of Enlightenment thought. Walpole embraced the very aspects of the Gothic that Enlightenment thinkers had rejected: irrationality, mystery, and awe. At the same time as Walpole was writing, a broader cultural shift was underway, particularly in architecture. The Gothic revival, which began in the 18th century and gained full momentum in the 19th, saw architects re-embrace Gothic forms. Once considered barbaric, the style came back into fashion, influencing major buildings like Britain's Houses of Parliament. Gothic architecture, with its complex stonework and soaring arches, was now admired for its spiritual and emotional power, much as Gothic literature tapped into those same qualities of awe and mystique. The revival found powerful advocates in thinkers like John Ruskin and Augustus Pugin, who championed the style not only as an aesthetic choice, but as a moral and spiritual one. Ruskin, with his philosophy of truth to materials, believed that the authenticity and craftsmanship of Gothic architecture reflected a kind of moral integrity, contrasting it with what he saw as the soulless industrial designs of his day. Pugin similarly advocated for a return to medieval Gothic as a restoration of purity and spiritual values, seeing in its forms a connection to the divine. This reverence for Gothic spiritual depth paralleled what Gothic literature offered, an exploration of darker, less rational aspects of life that transcend ordinary experience. Writers like Anne Radcliffe expanded on Walpole's foundations by adding elements of suspense and the sublime, crafting stories where terror arose both from external threats and inner fears. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein took the Gothic into new territory, blending it with emerging concerns about science and progress, allowing Shelley to critique the Enlightenment's blind faith in reason and human ambition. What started as a niche genre in 18th century literature has since permeated popular culture. Gothic architecture and themes appear in everything from early horror cinema like Nosferatu and Dracula to modern films, video games, and TV shows. The haunted houses, eerie landscapes, and dark family secrets that Gothic literature pioneered continue to shape our expectations of horror and suspense. Far from being dismissed as barbaric or irrelevant, the Gothic has become a powerful symbol of the mysterious, the sublime, and the supernatural. Today, the influence of Gothic aesthetics and themes extends from grand architecture to the pages of literature, preserving our fascination with the unknown and our darker, more complex nature. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.